stick your neck out or you do something a little bit different to what everyone else is doing, that's when you're really a target. And that's when you need the most support. People in my close network talking about me in a way that's quite negative just because I'm giving something a crack. If I bullied them, fine. Yeah. But I'm not bullying anyone. I'm just out here doing my own thing, giving something a crack. Seems to be coming from people who've never gone out and given something a crack.
How would you get your name out there when it comes to the brand and the marketing side of things?
Is in-store merchandising.
Yeah.
So if your product looks good in store and it's positioned in the right way and you've got the right marketing collateral around it, people will purchase it. And that's where you want people to purchase. If you're launching a business, I don't think you can launch it on the back of a trend. I believe that you need a rich story and a very rich value proposition to withstand any trend.
One of the things I hear all the time is around discounting things for friends. Where would you say your expectations were as a product-based business owner when it came to like your friends sharing stuff or trying stuff or buying stuff?
So in terms of discounting specifically, I'm going to be honest.
Sophie, welcome to Top of Mind. I am really looking forward to today's chat because I know that we've had a couple of conversations offline about your journey so far, you know, your recent appearance on Food Stars, and I'm really excited because there's a lot of, I suppose, subject matter that we're going to cover today. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So I'm going to get straight to it. You've recently won Gordon Ramsay's Food Stars show. Now, what does winning something like that mean to you?
Yes, I did win. It's a very weird thing to even wrap my head around now, winning a reality show. You know, I never thought in my right mind I would ever be on a reality show. I had no intent of being on one, so let alone actually being a contestant and then winning. It's been amazing for the business. So I did it for sure for brand awareness for the business, but then also to support my personal brand, which is, you know, so important. Winning it has been probably the best part has been the mentorship with Janine, which has just kickstarted last week. You know, she's someone I've looked up to for so long and she can shed so much light on experiences that she's had and kind of just telling me what I don't know. And so, yeah, and obviously, you know, the money helps for scaling.
Absolutely. Now, you launched your product Soul Tonic in 2022. Take us through a bit of that journey. I know we were talking about kind of the different products, you know, with my e-com business and then yours around like where they were born and how they were born and the idea of, you know, where it came from. Where did the idea of Soul Tonic come from?
So Soul Tonic is really just a brainchild of my love for health, wellness, fashion and beauty, but deep-seated into Korean culture. So I became obsessed with K-beauty and some fashion labels that were born in Seoul that I was seeing appear in New York Fashion Week and Milan. And I became obsessed with what these Korean people are doing, especially their skin treatments. You know, every second place is a plastic surgery place, or Olive Young, which is their K-beauty version of Mecca. So after I started looking into their way of life, I saw that there was this $400 million hangover relief beverage category. Every 7-Eleven had multiple of these products on shelf, sometimes up to 11 at a time. Of these anti-inflammatory tonics that people would drink for liver detoxification and general well-being. And I kind of couldn't believe this didn't really exist in Australia or even in the Western world as much. So I started looking into these ingredients, and some people would recognise today because there's more and more brand awareness of them. So think ginseng, Havenia dulcis, Korean pear, etc. And so then I decided I wanted to create my own. And working in the beverage space for a while, I knew what I wanted my brand to look like, but I knew it had to be unique enough to cut through in a very crowded beverage space at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I know firsthand, like when you go into a space that you're not familiar with, like yes, you had a passion for, you know, Korea, you know, the culture, the, you know, wellness side of Korea and the beauty side of, you know, Korean culture. But where do you start when it comes to manufacturing a product that you actually have no idea where to start?
Yeah, that's such a good question because this is probably my most asked question as well. And this is the scariest bit about starting your own business is that there actually aren't that many resources to get started, surprisingly, given there's so many people who are starting businesses these days. I have a lot of experience in the beverage space in Australia, absolutely zero in South Korea. So I actually went to Google, which is crazy, and I basically Googled, manufacturers in South Korea, and I went into deep rabbit holes and got scammed by a couple of sites that I thought were legit. Usually I don't get scammed, but these were so real and so legitimate. I was talking to real people who were meant to be the conduit between me and finding a manufacturer in South Korea, and they ended up just running away with my money, which sucks.
Yeah.
But my biggest piece of advice to anyone who's looking to find a manufacturer in a foreign country is to go to the government and their trade organisation that sits usually below it or is associated to it.
Hey, just a quick one. If you are loving this episode, help us grow and reach more people by hitting the subscribe button and leaving a review.
So I ended up landing on something called KITA, which is the Korean International Trade Association. And they were amazing. They support local Korean businesses export, but then you can actually meet those businesses. And they gave me a translator, and I just submitted my business plan and I said, this is what I need, this is what I'm looking for. And they set up all the meetings. It was great.
Yeah, amazing. Because I feel like, when I started my business, my marketing agency, it's like I have that knowledge of I know marketing, I know Australia, I know clients and customers that I would go out to or I was already working with, right? But when you go into a space that not only do you not speak the language.
Oh, not even one word. I'm really bad at languages. I feel like people get languages or they don't.
Yeah.
And I just don't.
Yeah. And when you don't know the language, you don't know the people that you're dealing with. As you said, I say this all the time is you only have to know 1% more than the person that you're dealing with to be considered an expert, which is terrifying.
It is.
Especially when it comes to, money involved, financial advice and things that can kind of really hurt somebody or a business. How did you navigate knowing what the right next step was outside of the people that you were working with?
That was really tricky. So it's testing and learning and trusting my gut. So I think your gut is something that we underestimate these days. Everyone thinks with their head, and I think there is a place for that. And I'm a very logical, pragmatic person, and I think things through. But what I've learned over the last 3 years of being in business is to trust my gut and go with that. And if my gut is saying something's not right, it probably isn't, and I should investigate why it's not.
Yeah. Was there an example that you can give me that you've had that gut feeling that you're this isn't right, and it turned out to be not right?
Yeah. So particularly when I was choosing my manufacturers, I was a really tough choice between two different individuals. One spoke no English, and we were just strictly working through a translator. And then the other one was actually a diplomat, and he spoke amazing English. And he had this incredible history. He was very well connected. He understood the category. He understood my vision. But there was something about the way he spoke to me that felt off and fake. And I couldn't put my finger on it because his credentials were so strong. And anyway, I ended up going with the Korean guy who's Mr. Park, and now he's my best friend, my current manufacturer. And then the other guy actually ended up completely ripping me off, trademarking my designs in South Korea. And now he's made it difficult for me to trademark my own designs because he's just stolen them. And he's a diplomat, he's a lawyer. Yeah. So that proved to me the kind of individual he is. And I'm so glad I didn't go into business with someone who's capable of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's it's one thing that I'm super grateful for some days, that I'm so glad I don't have a co-founder.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have seen so many horror stories of people, growing different ways, or, one person. I think, you have to have a difference of opinions. I think sometimes that's great, and it creates, this really healthy conversation around the way in which the business is going or the goals that you have for the business. But I've just seen them end so badly.
it can be really, you have to be very careful with who you go into business with.
And so with that in mind, you have 2 other partners in your business or?
Yes, and they've got the structure of the business is a little bit different to conventional. I have one guy who's my creative director and he was there from the very, very beginning in terms of the brand building. He was actually in Paris at the time when we built the brand. And so he flew over to Seoul with me to meet Mr. Park, and he's been on every trip to Seoul since. So he's got a bit of skin in the game. And then I have an interesting other person called Scott. He was actually my commercial director when I worked for Moet Hennessy. So I was a little analyst. He was the commercial director. He was the boss. And in some turn of events, he's now working for Soul Tonic, which is amazing.
Isn't that so funny how, and you've probably seen this, I mean, I know your journey from a career point of view definitely hasn't been kind of linear in terms of the categories or the industries that you've worked in. You've gone from consulting, you know, in a financial kind of very financial, very corporate role through to, you know, working at Moet Hennessy and kind of that luxury space through to Red Bull. And they're all different in their own rights. How has building relationships and kind of maintaining relationships, obviously the relationship that you have with Scott was started when you were at Moet Hennessy. So how has building those relationships kind of helped you get to where you are today?
It is the most important thing. This is my biggest piece of advice for anyone who's working in a corporate role in their 20s or is in a role that they might not enjoy or they're looking for something else, is that look at your current role and look at your cohort, look at the people around you, the people that you're working for, and think that one day you can be in business with them or they can help you out, and just approach every day like that, because trust me, there will be a shift in the way you look at your work and it will be an amazing positive shift until you get to that next job that you're super passionate about. EY consulting, I mean, let's be real. I was in banks. I was doing risk work. I was doing weird technology rollouts of some niche thing in some wealth management firm. Look, I didn't enjoy it, obviously, but obviously.
Otherwise you'd still be there. R.I.P.
But the connections that I built there, those people, they're going to be the CEOs of banks around me. They're going to be the CEOs of PE funds. They're going to start their own things and I'm going to call on them. And I have such close relationships from that grad cohort and also some of the partners. And then that same approach is what I took to Moet Hennessy and then at Red Bull today. And you need people around you, and it's not just your close-knit friends in your social circle. They're often not the people you end up leaning on. So network is just the biggest piece of advice. So I was very lucky to form really close connections, and it's really worked in my favour now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you touched on it briefly before around the challenges that you faced, not only with the show, but also with your product and building a business and building a brand. What are some of the challenges that you can share with us in terms, and how have you navigated them? Because I think not enough women especially, but people in general are talking about the lows of business. I think social media very much glamorizes owning a business and building a brand, and that's the very sexy side of it. But not enough people are talking about the challenges that they face or the times that they sit there and just bawl their eyes out, because I have been there.
Same.
And so I just think that anyone that doesn't share that or talk about that often is just not being honest.
Completely.
Or they haven't pushed themselves enough to be in a space that's, you know, outside of their comfort zone or difficult. Now, I live and die by a phrase that's like, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
100%. Gosh. And look, my biggest advice is not everyone should go into business.
Yeah.
I actually don't recommend everyone to go into business. In fact, I would take a really long, hard think about it because there are so many lowlights. But when the highs are high, they're so high. But when the lows are low, they can be like treacherous. The best way to explain the challenges is that think about everything you hate doing and then think about that potentially being 90% of your role. So I hate supply chain. I hate ops. I hate accounting so much. And that is the backbone of your business. If you don't have a financially viable product and you can't account for it in the right way and you don't have the right structure set up, you're not going to have a business. So your marketing can be as flashy as possible. You can have an amazing social media presence. But if the back end isn't in check, you don't have a business. So the challenges for me has been navigating all the accounting stuff myself before I pay. I have an accountant, but you still have to do a lot yourself, which I think people don't realize.
Absolutely.
So accountants can only do so much for you, right? And also if you don't know your numbers, then they can't really help you. Supply chain is big for a product-based business, and a lot of people who go into product-based businesses don't actually think about the whole supply chain. We're talking importing, freight, warehousing, taxes, trade agreements, packaging, regulations, compliance, risk. That is huge. And then also just the day-to-day stresses, of trying to achieve so many things and then every day feeling like you've only achieved a quarter of them. Yeah. And putting a lot of pressure on yourself and being okay with the guilt as well. So look, I have so many examples of times like you where I've just bawled my eyes out thinking, is it even worth it? But then the next day, because business changes so much and every day is different, the highs are so high.
Yeah. And given that we're in the spirit of talking about challenges, what would you say kind of one of the toughest challenges that you faced to date has been that you can talk about? Because I think, one of the things that I'm really, really conscious of, I regularly upload onto my TikTok being like, hey, if you're thinking about starting a business, don't.
Good advice.
Because there's so many people that go, I'm going to start a business because I want more work-life balance, or I want to work for myself and I don't want to have a boss. And I'm like, sure, they're the kind of nice to haves but it's not as glamorous as you think it is. So what are what is one of the challenges that you've navigated that has kind of really made you question whether you're on the right path?
That's a very good question. A particular one, and it might be one that people want to do, is that when I first started, I didn't realize that I would have to be the face of the brand. I didn't realize I would have to be the heart and soul and show up every single day. And showing up every single day as the face on social media, but then when I went on a national reality TV show and all of the implications and outcomes that have happened as a result of that is so tiring and exhausting. Some days you do not feel good and you have to embody your product and your brand and you have to show up for it every single day. And that has been the biggest challenge because that's a deep-seated mental thing that you have to conquer every day. And once you start showing up as the face, you have to be consistent. You have to keep going.
Hey guys, if you are listening on Spotify, don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the Q&A function on Spotify.
So then you get to a point where you're in quite deep and there's no exit strategy. It's just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. So for me, that's an ongoing challenge and I don't think that's ending. I had a call with America this morning about some retail opportunity on the East Coast in some premium retailers, which is great. And his biggest thing was, so can you fly over and can you tell your story to every single one of these retailers in the next month? Is that possible? Can you do that? That's what we require. And then started going through the requirements as being a founder over in America and what they expect. And straight away I was thinking, okay, well, how's the Australia business going to run? How am I going to fit this into my schedule? Yeah. Everyone requires so much of you and there's only so much energy you can give before it comes at a cost. So that I think is my biggest challenge. It's energy management and then showing up every day in the way that I want to show up for my brand.
I couldn't agree more. How do you manage your energy then? You're 3 years in terms of running your business. What are some kind of non-negotiables when it comes to managing your energy?
So I love health and wellness, and I think I feel like everyone says that. I love health and wellness. I love a good time as well, but I've always been quite attuned to the human body and I love listening to podcasts on self-improvement. I just spent the last month working with a neuroscientist and I do that once a year and I do this brain biohack productivity thing and he coaches me through it and the lessons I've learned from that are amazing. But I have to see sunlight and ocean every single day. I wouldn't say I have a step goal, but I have to have movement in my day. Yep. And I have boundaries now. Boundaries are it. I can say no now. I used to just be a yes girl to everything. Everything was a yes. And now not everything is a yes. Everything's a yes, but but when, when do you need to know by? Yes, but can it be in X time? It's not always just committing. So a lot of it is around prioritizing my time in terms of scheduling and daily movement.
Yeah, absolutely. I literally had this conversation with somebody, I think it was yesterday, and they were like, their diary was so busy and people just kept on coming in with requests and they're like, yeah, I can do it, but in 4 weeks' time, because it's not urgent. It's important, but it's not urgent. And I feel like people misunderstand the definition between the two sometimes of what is important versus what is urgent. And I'm the same as you. Like I feel like I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Same.
I like to, really try and help as many people as I can, or meet as many people as I can, or, make time for as many people as I can. What boundaries have you put in place then that you feel that really help with that?
As boundaries, I've kind of have in every bucket of my life, right? So friends, family, and then more social occasions, and then work occasions as well. And I only say yes to X amount per week that I can manage into my schedule. And I really have to be careful around, and I look ahead in the future. And then I factor in travel and pre-work and post-work. And I never used to be the kind of person that would plan every meticulous thing in my calendar, but now I just time block. Pre-work time block has been the best thing ever. So if I'm, for example, tonight I'm hosting a dinner with 40 C-suite executives and they're here to talk about they want to hear from me around how to embrace creativity within the entrepreneurial generation. So they're obviously all a lot older. They're in their C-suite executive roles and they probably they don't understand that we're in this entrepreneurial generation and everyone wants to start a business here and there. So even for tonight, I've got 2 hours of pre-work that I just have to sit down to think about what I'm going to say. Otherwise, in the past, I am just chasing my tail always, and I get to the end of the day and I'm exhausted and I don't feel satisfied. No. So that's probably been the biggest game changer for me.
Yeah, nice. Now, you did touch on it previously around working with a neuroscientist.
Yes.
And I'm fascinated.
Yes.
Tell me a bit about that process. Things. How did it come about? How did you start doing it? You say you do it every year.
Yeah.
What did you learn from it? How did it start?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So his name's Dean. Shout out.
Shout out to Dean.
He's incredible. He actually reached out to me because of Soul Tonic. He, as a side project that he can't really focus on, has this red wine. It's resveratrol enhanced red wine, and resveratrol is an anti-aging supplement that a lot of people are taking now, but it's actually naturally derived in red wine, and the most bioavailable way to have it is by consuming red wine. Most people have it in tablet format though. So he created a wine that's got, I don't know how much, it's enhanced by resveratrol by a huge amount. That 1 cup of it is your daily amount of resveratrol. Very amazing concept. It's incredible. It's a really nice red wine, I think, from the Barossa. He thought there could be some synergies in collaboration with Soul Tonic and how that works, and his resveratrol enhanced wine, both kind of better for you products, playing in that kind of alcohol wellness space. But so when I went and met with him about this wine, I was just intrigued really. And then he started telling me about the actual work he does, and he's big in stem cell research, and he has this company called Simpler Health, which is about supporting people having the best health outcomes, but from a science point of view. And I was telling him about all my woes. I just finished filming the TV show last April, and I said, I feel like I want to do a reset, but I'm not one to ever do like a juice cleanse. I don't believe in them. I just don't believe in any reset that I've ever been sold on Instagram. And he goes, you know what? I'll coach you through one. It's really a brain biohack. It's for productivity. You'll probably lose a bit of visceral fat in the short term, but it will reset your system. And the whole concept is that in the past, you've learned all these stresses and traumas, and you're built up. You are who you are because of all these tiny little stresses and traumas you've learned. And even the way we're speaking right now, that's because of ways you've probably talked on other podcasts and things you've learned and mannerisms you've learned. This biohack is meant to basically reset all of that so you have clarity and you're not driven by past stress. You're clear. It's I don't think I'm explaining it in the most optimal way, but that's basically the gist. And it's through food and supplements, controlled, over a 3 to 5 week period, and then you get the most optimal results. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what's in it, but I will say it's quite high protein, low carb with supplements, not exercising, which is big for me, getting your heart rate down while you're doing this, and then being very strategic with the food you implement back in, and then you can kind of eat normally.
Wow. And what are the results that you found from doing this?
First of all, I learned so much about my body. I never thought I could even do something like this. You know, I eat when I feel like eating. I'm not restrictive. I'm quite balanced. I learned how to be diligent and really tune into my body every step of the way. I learned how to sit in hunger. I learned how, I hate being hungry. So that was a tough one to me. And I also learned a lot about food groups and their impact on my productivity, and how eating a certain meal can directly impact the work that I'm doing straight after, which is so interesting. But the main thing I learned was just that you can reset. You can have that mental reset through food and supplements, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they talk about food and, you know, food, nature, et cetera, being like a natural medicine, and, you know, people have been using it for years. So I totally get it, and I'm fascinated. But we obviously can't talk about this the entire podcast. Now, your product, Soul Tonic, it's a hangover relief cure.
Yeah, look, you can't say cure. So the ingredients.
How does it work?
How? The ingredients, Korean pear and Havania dulcis, which we use, have been used in South Korea for centuries, mostly for general well-being, for liver detoxification. They're both highly anti-inflammatory, very high in vitamin C, vitamin A, folate. They even say Havania dulcis is an anti-diabetic. But in Korea, they also use it for helping digest alcohol, because both of the ingredients, natural ingredients, have something called DHM in them, which speeds up the detoxification of alcohol in the liver. They have enzymes that basically reduce down a toxin called acetaldehyde, which is the toxin you build up when you drink.
Right.
So if you're going out and you're going on a bender and you have this first, it's not going to make you feel 100%, obviously, because you've gone on a bender and nothing will help you. But if you're going out, no one can help you. My tonic is not going to help you. I just want to put that on the record. But if you get a hangover from, 6 to 10 wines, having this first really helps. It really helps with those nasty headaches and stomach upset. And sometimes people say it helps with the anxiety, but I don't know. That could be a bit placebo. But for me, I won't even go out and have 4 wines without drinking it, because in South Korea, 2/3 of the population will not drink without it. So why would we drink without it?
Yeah, right. So you have it before you drink?
Yeah, you have it before you drink. If you have it after, it would act more as rehydration, so more as electrolytes from the Korean pear.
Now, I find it fascinating because I don't drink, right? I haven't drunk for about 2 and a bit years
Good
now.
on you.
And I quit because my anxiety got really bad.
Yeah.
I quit but it wasn't because I was having big nights and my anxiety was huge afterwards. It would happen at the second drink that I would have. And I just noticed I feel like I'm very attuned with, how I feel and things like that. And I just noticed that my anxiety was spiking at the second or third drink, and I'm just like, this is not me. I was thinking about things that I'm just like, I don't think about this in a, sober environment. So why are these thoughts coming up when I'm having a couple of drinks? Now, for a non-drinker, you've obviously talked about the benefits from a wellness point of view as well. So for a non-drinker, would you look at consuming this as a daily supplement in your kind of routine?
Absolutely. So I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, feeling a bit under the weather. So this morning with my Panadol, I had a Soul Tonic because of the vitamin C. And the vitamin C, there's equal amount as, say, consuming an orange and a half. So, people lean towards oranges. People aren't as equipped for understanding the health benefits of a Korean pear. But I have many friends that will go to their local grocer and they'll have a cold Soul Tonic in the afternoon as a natural pick-me-up, because obviously the natural sugars kind of act almost like an energy drink for them. And it's good for you. And then I have friends who create mocktails out of it.
Okay.
So they'll just add their favourite soda and add, like a lemon wedge or an orange wedge. We've had people who use it as their smoothie bases.
Okay.
So they don't like the ingredients in their, alternate nut milks. They don't like using coconut water. They use the Soul Tonic. 45 calories, all natural, adds to the flavour. Or I've even had people putting it in their matchas instead of milk. So
interesting.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It can be used for a range of things.
Yep.
It really is. The way I see it and what's aligned to me is really that health and wellness category. It's at saunas, it's at gyms ranged. So it isn't, we have people who drink it before a long run because that's what helps fuel them.
Yep.
So no, you don't have to just be drinking.
Yeah, I love that. Now, when you started Soul Tonic, I know firsthand I've got two businesses that are very different in terms of offering, right? And how I started talking about those two products were very similar when I launched them, or service and product, right? I built my own personal brand, and then off the back of my personal brand, I started talking about the products or services that I was launching as part of these two businesses, right? How did you start, or where did you start when it came to getting the name of Soul Tonic out there? Because not everyone has the luxury to go on a national television show to get it out there.
Of course.
So where, like, if someone was looking at launching a product and you're like, okay, cool, if I could go back and have my time again, how would you get your name out there when it comes to the brand and the marketing side of things?
It's twofold. So we launched on Instagram and we just had an e-com website, and I didn't go on to the TV show until 5 months in, but then it didn't air till a year and a half in.
Yes.
So I didn't actually get the benefit of going on the national TV show until about a month ago.
Yes.
So I was still relying on all of your traditional sources of marketing. Product-based businesses, I'll just talk about product-based businesses because it's a little bit different to say a service-based business. With a product-based business, obviously you have to have all of the classic social pages, but the first thing I would have done if I had my time again was to start building my personal brand faster and sooner, because I didn't do that. See, I launched Soul Tonic thinking I didn't have to be the face behind the brand, thinking I could just have this really cool-looking product that would stand up on its own. So, but once I started going onto TikTok and being the face and really embodying the brand, that's when I started seeing some really strong results. So I would have done that faster for sure, and to give the brand more of a voice and go harder on storytelling. So a big part of Soul Tonic is the rich history in South Korea and the innovative juice extraction method and Mr. Park's third generation farming know-how and how we shoot everything in Seoul, and really playing into that providence, which we didn't really launch with at the beginning. So, and then the other thing I would do, which is still a form of marketing, but it's not as maybe traditional in terms of social, is in-store merchandising.
Yeah.
So if your product looks good in store and it's positioned in the right way and you've got the right marketing collateral around it, people will purchase it. And that's where you want people to purchase. You want rate of sale in store in your retailers, because then they reorder and then you have a business. So investing in point of sale that looked good was the best investment that I've ever done.
And what did your point of sale look like when you invested in it?
So it looked like a 12-unit stand, and it had some messaging on the back, and each pouch propped up into the stand. And I encouraged my local grocers and little delis and favourite alcohol stores to put it right at counter. So there were these propped up silver pouches that looked nothing like what was in store. And people were just purchasing it because they were interested. They were intrigued. They didn't even know what it was. They were thinking, literally, I'm just going to give it a go. And that's when we started seeing really, really good sales results, and that drove a lot of the business.
Thanks for listening. If you loved this conversation, don't forget to tune in to our next episode to hear part 2. Don't forget to review and subscribe if you are loving this content.